What's good, everybody? We back with another book review, gang. Today I'm gonna talk about the most recent book I've read, which would be The Unbearable Lightness of Being. Tight shit, gang. So a little bit about the book. So the story kind of follows like 3, 4, 5 different perspectives, right? One is Tomas, which is kind of like the protagonist, the first kind of dude that you follow through the story. He's like a surgeon, right? And he's like a serial cheater. You know what I'm saying? He got a shorty low on his side, Teresa and everything, right? But he be cheating on her. She a good little sweetheart and everything, right? But he be doing her dirty over and over again. She knows about it. She still puts up with him. They married and shit later on and everything, right? And of course she doesn't fuck with it. She don't like it. She don't want him to do it. But like I said, she kind of just puts up with it because she let it do this shit like that, right? And Tomas, like, he doesn't want to hurt her. He does genuinely care for her. But it's just like part of him that he just needs to like fucking fiend for the shorties and shit, gang. Then you also follow Sabina, which is one of Tomas's like favorite mistresses, right? As well as Franz, which is the dude that is in love with Sabina, right? So and plus you kind of follow the dog a little bit, their little dog and shit, gang, you know what I'm saying? So 4 or 5 different perspectives throughout the story. Ultimately, man, I really fucking enjoyed the book, bro. Really fuck with it. You know, I started reading it when I was out in Paris and shit, because we was out in Paris, gang, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know, it just really fit the vibe, man. I sunk into it right away. Real page turn in the very beginning, especially, right? Not to say that it loses steam at all. I really fuck with it all the way through. But it was really easy to get into, bro. Very kind of like meditative kind of book. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you're kind of following, it's kind of dealing with Tomas and like his cheating and everything, and Teresa, how she feels about it. And then you kind of cut to Sabina and her life and how she's going through shit. And Franz, how Franz low-key be fucking around. He's got a wife and shit, but he's falling for Sabina and shit. He kind of confesses that, but ultimately his shit kind of goes south. You know what I mean?
I'm calling from Ace Appliances for your fridge repair.
Yes.
Yeah.
What was I saying? But yeah, man, like I really enjoyed all the characters. I love jumping the different perspectives. You know what I mean? And ultimately, you know, like I compare my experience with the book with my sister's a little bit, right? She was kind of excited to read it when I started reading it. She finished in like fucking 3 days, you know what I mean? So, and then she had a lot to say, you know, she didn't really like Tomas, right? Because he was like cheating and shit, right? So she couldn't really look past that. Not that I'm saying you look past that, but that, you know, that she really disliked him for that. And that kind of really impacted how she felt about the book ultimately, right? For me, like, I feel like it was a narrative kind of point in the story for that to be an issue, but I didn't really feel like that was all there was, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Tomas was dealing with a lot of other shit. Same with Teresa, like everyone was kind of dealing with a lot of other things with that kind of just being there. And like I said, everyone knew about it. It was known, right? To the point where like it didn't feel like the crux of the story. You know what I mean? I really felt like it was this story about people, right? This unbearable lightness of being and shit, right? Like, very deep book, bro. Like I really felt like there was a lot to it. A lot that low-key probably went over my head on the first read, right? But this honestly is one of the books that I'd actually say I'd be happy to read again. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's rare for me. Like, I don't feel like, because, you know, I'm new to the reading journey and everything, right? So I don't really feel like that I've read a book that's really made me want to read it again right away after. You know what I mean? But this was definitely one of them, bro. Like I said, I really fuck with Franz. You know what I'm saying? Franz is he's kind of like the hero-y type of guy, you know what I mean? He's cheating on his wife, but he confesses that, and he thinks like the truth gonna set him free, but low-key like that kind of fucks him over, right? And Franz kind of has a tragic ending and everything, right? Sabina as well, she kind of going through the motions. She kind of deals with regret in certain aspects of her life, you know what I mean? Teresa, she I feel like near the book, you feel like she was so focused on X that she felt like she missed out on Y. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, shit like that, bro. And then Tomas, like I said, he's kind of dealing with a lot of political shit that's going on at the time, right? Because this is all kind of set in Europe, so there's kind of a lot of talk with the Communist Party at the time with Russia and everything, right? And that really affects Tomas's life because he's kind of taking a political stance without really knowing it, and that's really affected his job, right? He's out of a job. He's a high-ranking surgeon, and now they take him out of that shit. Now he's like a window washer and shit. You know what I'm saying? But he's still finding his baddies through that shit. You know what I'm saying? He always been a dog and shit. That shit crazy to me, bro. But yeah, man. I feel like a lot of the story, it really makes you think about like the people you want to, how you want to spend your life, the people you want in your life, and just those different interactions and what you can take away from them and what they mean to you. When it comes to writing, I really liked how it was written, right? Like, I feel like it was pretty straightforward. It wasn't too complex. Actually, I take that back. They fuck around with time a little bit, right? Like, it can be a little confusing in the beginning to go from like one thing to another thing, and then you jump perspectives, and now you're kind of in a different time setting as the story is going on, right? Like I said, how we jump from POV to POV, right? So you're with Tomas and like Teresa in the beginning, and then you follow them for a bit, but then when you jump to Sabina, start with her from the beginning as well, right? And then you kind of hear about how she interacts with Tomas, you know, the different instances that we've already read through Tomas's POV, but now, you know, you're experiencing it with Sabina and everything. Low-key a little dirty type of book, you know what I'm saying? But not too descriptively dirty, you know what I'm saying? Like, they talk about a little bit dirty type shit, but like the writing keeps it straight to the point, you know what I'm saying? Like, it made me think about like, when I was reading like Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami, right? His shit was a little bit dirty, gang. His shit, like, he really described the dirtiness in that motherfucker, bro. Here you just kind of touch on the regular dirtiness, like, you know that shit is what it is, but we don't really get into the thick of it, the weeds of it and everything like that, you know what I'm saying? You know, in a weird way, now that I think about it, I feel like each character in the story kind of fucked themselves over in a certain way, you know what I mean? And they all kind of had to deal with that and move through that and learn from that. And ultimately, it's kind of a story about regret in a way, right? Where when all is said and done, you sit back and you kind of look at your life and you're like, damn, like, not that, you know, where did it go wrong, but it's kind of like, shit, if I focused on this rather than this, you know, maybe I'd be happier. Maybe I'd be in a better place. Maybe my relationship will be stronger, right? Because I feel like this story about broken people, not really knowing what to do, yet still kind of leaning on each other in an unhealthy way, where it could be healthy, it could easily be healthy, but you know, you don't want to put in the work, you don't want to have a good long look at yourself, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's one thing I definitely took away from the book, because that's definitely the hard thing, right? When you really take a step back to look at yourself, judge yourself, and see what needs to change within yourself for you to kind of grow and evolve as a person, you know what I'm saying? For you to be worthy of, you know, the love of Teresa if you're Tomas, right? Like, how you gonna be worthy of that? And for Teresa to like really understand, I guess, like, what's she all about? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like what my sister didn't really fuck with was this, you know, this guy's cheating on Teresa the whole story and shit, and she's just there the whole time, you know, just kind of sitting through it and everything, right? Which is fucked, right? And then there's a lot of things that kind of go on with Teresa as well, where I feel like she doesn't just sit back, you know? I feel like my sister kind of had that POV where she kind of sits back and like it's, you know, it was lame to her, I feel like. But, you know, you read the book, you see that Teresa's kind of doing her own thing. But one thing I feel like, bro, when you're in Teresa's POV, like near the end of the story, bro, this is a spoiler though, so like I don't want to like skip this part a little bit, right? I'll do some of this shit when I'm done spoiling it, right? But I feel like there's a lot of talk with her dreams throughout the book, right? She has a lot of all these different dreams. She tells Tomas about them and everything, right? She gets scared of them. She shakes and everything, right? But whenever you're in her POV, I feel like a lot of fuck shit kind of happens. You know what I mean? A lot of confusing, weird shit. And it's hard to track. It's like, what the fuck is kind of going on right now, right? But as you get through the book, you get to the back half of the book, damn near the end of the book, I feel like what it was you couldn't tell if she was living her life or if it was a dream. You know what I mean? I feel like that was dope as fuck looking back on it. I don't know if that's legit, but that's something I felt where like a lot of, now that I think back to a lot of her storyline, a lot of it could have just been in her head, bro. Like it could have been a dream. You know what I mean? Which actually like is really fucking dope to me, bro. Like I feel like that adds a lot more dimension to her story, right? And I feel like that would fuck with her too, right? Like if she's kind of living her life the way she is, not being able to really differentiate the dream from reality, right? I feel like that adds to like everything she went through. You know what I mean? More spoiler territory, right? I just want to discuss this shit, gang. So my bad. This is a good ass book, gang. You know what I'm saying? So I highly recommend it and shit. But let me just talk about what the fuck going on, right? So before the book ends, you kind of find out that Tomas and Teresa die and shit, right? They have this car accident and everything. And I guess you kind of you read throughout the book, and near the end, there's this lovely moment where they're burying their, you know, their dog, right? And you know, they're fighting a little bit. Tomas wants to like do good for her shorty and everything, right? And those are really good. That was a good look, few chapters with that whole scene. I really enjoyed reading that, you know what I mean? But as, you know, the story was ending, I feel like I had this preconceived notion that it was going to end with them dying, right? You're going to see this car accident, right? You kind of hint at it earlier on, and you're going to see that, right? But you never do, bro. You know what I mean? So that was actually low-key very beautiful to me, because it was like you can know where the story ends physically, right? But the story didn't really end like that. The story kind of ended on a more positive note. I feel like they went out dancing, like shit was good, lit and everything, and they were enjoying each other's company and everything like that. And maybe they died that night, I don't know. Maybe it was some other night, maybe it was the next night, maybe it was a few years from now, right? That's not the point. I feel like that, and I don't know, I just really like that, right? I feel like it goes to show, like I said, it's just about life and shit, man, and the weight, you know, this unbearable lightness of being. You know what I'm saying? Shit, right now, I don't even remember what the fuck that really meant, but now that if I think about the title, right, I feel like you know what it really means to me, bro? It's like, I guess I really fuck with the book because I can really apply it to myself, right? The unbearable lightness of being. I feel like that comes down to like when you live your life solely through yourself, right? Example, like me right now, bro, I'm single and shit. I'm just fucking around doing whatever the fuck I want to do, right? Freedom, this, that. But I feel like there's this unbearable, it's not a weight, it's this lightness, because I'm super light right now, right? There's nothing really holding me to any individual. There's not too much, besides the love of my friends and family, there's no real love that I'm yearning for, type shit, you know what I mean? So I'm a light in general, but it still weighs on my soul, because it's like I am not avoiding, you know, because I don't feel like I'm avoiding, but I feel like there is some type of connection that I don't have, which leaves me to feel slightly unfulfilled, right? And these are circumstances that you put yourself in as you go through these things, right? Like in the case of a lot of these characters, they're avoiding kind of talking about the issues that they have, right? Or really, like I said, really putting a mirror to themselves and reflecting on what they need to change and shit like that. So I feel like for me, or I feel like what I'm trying to say, shit, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I just feel like when you lock in on your own so long, right, reality can start to blur a little bit between who you are, what you want, what you need, where you're supposed to go, where you want to go, where you need to go. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's easy to remain weightless through life rather than taking on the weight of something like a relationship. Not to say that a relationship heavy, right? But in this kind of context of the verbiage that we're using, right? To take that on and go through life, not with friction, but to take on the completeness of what life is meant to be. Life is meant to be shared with people, right? So I guess, you know, a lot of shit, gang. This is a good book, gang. I really fuck with this book, bro. light book. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, man. Like, it's, for me, like I cut through this shit like fucking hot butter, bro. Real shit. And I feel like, bro, the author, he's like Czechoslovakian or some shit. He held it down. You know what I mean? Good fucking book, bro. Heavy themes, but like I said, like, it's not in your face, bro. That's one thing I'm really trying to realize with a lot of the books I'm reading. I feel like sometimes I read this shit, bro, and I'm like, what the fuck was I supposed to take away from it, bro? Right? I feel like in a movie, in like all this other type of media that you consume, I feel like the theme is a bit more straight to the point, laid out in front of you, right? But I feel like with stories and books and everything, there could be like a few sentences that paint that picture of what the theme or what the story is all about. But if you're not locked in, if you miss that, if you overlook it, or maybe you read it but you didn't continue to read, you killed 3 days, you didn't read the book, you get back to it, you read maybe 2 chapters, then you don't read again, right? It's a lot more, it takes a lot more discipline to really get through this shit and really have it processed and have it really lock in your brain, bro. You know, that's one thing I'm really learning on this reading journey, and I really appreciate that, bro. Because again, it's really making me feel like you gotta slow down, you know, stay chill. And like I said, reading is very meditative, bro. It makes me think about how, like, you know, when they say when you meditate and your thoughts can wander and you really gotta bring your focus back to the present moment and like clear your head and then get back on, focus on your breath and everything. Reading kind of like that, bro. I feel like sometimes you can be reading and shit, but if you in your head about something, you're thinking about something, like, you're still reading the words, but you're thinking about some other shit. So you could read the whole fucking page, but you're in a whole other place. You know what I mean? Real shit, bro. But nah, bro. This a thought, bro. It's probably top 10 book, top 5 book, damn near, bro. Really enjoyed this fucking book, man. I love, like, you know, I'm not a big romance novel type of motherfucker, bro. You know what I'm saying? I never really read one of those. This kind of had romance elements in it and shit. But like I said, it was very character driven. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like the romance, it was the lack of it. Not the lack of it, but it was the internal turmoil of these characters when it came to the idea of love and companionship and like fidelity and like really being with somebody and seeing what that was all about. You know what I'm saying? That's what it was really about, along with, like I said, all their broken self-images and their flaws and all that shit kind of into this crock pot, just fucking cooking up, bubbling up and shit, bro. I really like the character of Sabina. You know, I feel like Sabina was very deep as a character. You know what I mean? I feel like her relationship with Tomas was pretty complex. And I feel like the way she handled her relationship with Franz, like I said, that was something she kind of regretted near the end of the book, right? And the way Franz's storyline kind of ends, bro, he straight passes and anything, bro, he gets cooked and shit, bro. Tragic ending for Franz, bro. But he was also a little goofy, gang. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really felt like that was purposeful. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Tomas was very chill, very kind of like locked in on his shit, well put together, kind of going through the motions and everything, right? Like he was like a womanizer known as, right? But like his aura was like I feel like Sabina kind of said, like, he'd give commands and shit and you can just follow, right? Like he had that presence about him where like you just gonna go with it. Franz was kind of like a bitch boy a little bit, right? But though he was more physically not daunting, but more physically masculine, I guess, right? But Tomas was like that silent masculine type shit, bro, and that was kind of like dope. But I feel like with Tomas, right, like I feel like Teresa was really tripping about bro cheating, and her storyline was kind of focused in that, mixed with a lot of her own issues, right? But Tomas, like, he was never even tripping about the cheating, bro. You know what I mean? I feel like his storyline kind of went in a direction more in that politics, right? Where he was kind of fucking around, lost his job, right? And it made me think about how like as a man has to, because he has to deal with all this extra bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, he's the main provider, everything, right? Now he's jobless, and like how that one in itself can kind of fuck with a man, right? Because I feel like a man being a provider and everything, like I feel like Dave Chappelle says some shit where he was like, taking away how a man eats is akin to killing him, something like that, right? And I feel like that was prominent in his storyline when that happened to him, right? When he kind of lost his job and everything. So he was kind of like, like on the grind and everything, right? And like I said, like he's dealing with all these political issues and everything, right? And like his son and shit. Oh my God, a lot of shit, bro. Right? But like he said, he always comes back home and he wants to be with Teresa because he genuinely loves her and shit, right? And she tweaking about all the cheating and shit. And Hundy's doing it, right? It's not like he's not cheating and everything. But it's like, he's like, what would you want me to do? And shit like that, right? But like he was, like his mental state wasn't with her in the house, is what I'm trying to say. Right? Like he was dealing with all this other shit. But like, and like he's come home to like this other battle where he's like, he loves the woman that he's with, but she's having all these, she's not comfortable with the type of life that he's leading and everything, right? Which is fair, which makes sense. And then at a certain point with him, because he gets older and older throughout the story, right? Oh, you know what, bro? Another whole aspect. I feel like Teresa, there was this one moment where she talked about how like her being so weak made Tomas weak, and she felt bad about holding him back in a way, right? Where like, I think she wanted to go back to Prague, and he went back with her and everything, right? Even though he was like a big time surgeon, could have held it down out there and shit, right? So she had this kind of realization where her own weakness kind of dragged down Tomas in a way, because she was kind of looking at him at one point, and she could really see how he had aged, right? And that was very interesting to me, because then Tomas would kind of counter with the fact like, I'm exactly where I want to be, right? And I guess that was also kind of a reflection of how we put our own insecurities onto other people, and I feel like we have, as people, we have this tendency to kind of paint a picture of like what we think is best, what we want, we put that on other people, right? It's like one person's image of a good time or fun or freedom isn't the same as someone else's, right? So I feel like there was kind of that kind of moment where like she was putting this shit on, you know what I'm saying? Like shit like that, bro. Good ass fucking book, gang. I'm gonna end it there. You know what I'm saying? I could talk about this for a minute, gang. Like I didn't even know I was gonna say all that shit, gang. Good ass fucking book, bro. You know what's hard, bro? It's always hard when you finish a book and you gotta find the next book, bro. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to just pick up some random shit. You know what I'm saying? Like I've bailed on books before and I hate that, bro. It's like, I don't want to bail on the book. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like I've come to accept that if I have to bail, I'm gonna bail. Because like I said, this shit is a longer time commitment. And like, if I'm not in it, I'm not focused. So I'm reading shit for nothing. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'd rather keep the habit of reading. And yeah, when you don't like the book, you take longer breaks between the book, which fucks you up too, right? So any book recommendations, bro, drop it in the comment section, gang, because I need some good books, gang. I want a little bit like adventure type shit, a little bit like life lesson-y type shit, some real type shit, some like, some real motherfucker type shit, gang. Let me know, gang. But yeah, The Unbearable Lightness of Being. 5 stars, motherfucker. 5 golden apples out of 5, gang. Alright, that's it for me. Peace.